War does not begin with the sound of a gun. War begins the moment a man realizes that the world he knew will never return. And on the night I'm about to tell you about, the night the earth itself seemed to stop breathing, I understood something that no academy, no doctrine, no manual will ever teach you. Leadership is not about leading men into battle. Leadership is about walking into hell first and forcing hell to step aside. The Ardennes forest was not a battlefield that night. It was a graveyard waiting to be filled. Snow fell in thick, suffocating sheets, absorbing sound, swallowing hope, burying fear under layers of freezing white silence. But silence can be deceptive. Silence can scream louder than artillery. We had lost contact with an entire battalion, vanished, swallowed by the forest. No radio, no flares, no scouts returning, nothing. My officers circled around me, their breaths visible in the cold, their eyes darting between the maps and my face. They were waiting for me to say it, the thing every sane man was already thinking. That battalion is gone. But sanity has never won a war. One captain, his hands shaking ever so slightly, cleared his throat. General, with the weather, the enemy density, the terrain, reaching them is, respectfully, impossible. There it was, the coward's word, the cancer of armies. Impossible. I stepped forward, not raising my voice, because truth does not need to be shouted. Impossible is a coffin, and I don't intend to climb into one today. The room froze harder than the air outside. My officers knew what was coming. Madness, disguised as courage. Courage, disguised as madness. With me, the two were interchangeable. I gave the order. Engines started. Tank treads shuddered. Men snapped out of fear and into duty. When I stepped outside, the sky was black as tar. No moon, no stars, just a void. Even God seemed ashamed to watch what we were about to walk into. My boots crushed the snow as I approached the formation. Rows of young men, old men, frightened men. War does not discriminate. War makes everyone equal by threatening to kill them. I climbed atop the nearest tank, feeling the cold steel under my gloves, and let my voice cut through the night. Tonight, we are not fighting Germans. We are fighting the dark, and the only way to defeat the dark is to walk straight into it. Men swallowed hard, not because of fear, but because they knew I meant every damn word. We moved through trees that looked like skeletons rising from the frost, through fog that felt alive, slithering between us, pressing against our skin. The cold was not weather. It was an enemy. A young lieutenant marched beside me, eyes darting left and right. General, do you ever fear what's out there? Without breaking stride, I answered, Son, I fear what's in here far more. I tapped my chest. A man's mind will kill him long before a bullet will. We pushed deeper. Hours felt like days. Snow turned to ice. Ice turned to blood-stained slush. The forest grew quieter, and in war, quiet is never peace. Quiet is warning. Then it came, a single shot, one crack in the distance, sharp enough to slice the fog in two. My men hit the ground instantly. I didn't, because the enemy wants movement, and I deny every enemy their satisfaction. I stepped forward, slow and deliberate, letting the fog swallow me. Somewhere behind me, the lieutenant hissed, General, get down! That's an order! I didn't turn around. Lieutenant, you don't give orders to a man who walks toward gunfire. Two silhouettes emerged, blurred, shifting, almost ghost-like in the fog. They raised their rifles. My hand reached my pistol smoother than breath. 2 shots, 2 bodies collapsing into the snow, sending up a soft cloud of white dust. My men stared, not at the kill, but at the calm. Calm in the presence of death is contagious. It spreads through the ranks like fire through dry leaves. We kept moving, and that's when I heard it, a sound so faint I almost mistook it for a trick of the wind. Help! A whisper, a dying whisper. I knelt, brushed away layers of snow, and uncovered a face, blue lips, cracked skin, eyes glazed with pain, but not yet faded. He looked at me, disbelief flickering in his frozen pupils. General, we thought you forgot us. I gripped his shoulder. I don't forget my own, and I sure as hell don't bury them before they're dead. We pulled him out, wrapped him, lifted him. Hope, real hope. ignited like a spark in the darkness. But sparks attract attention. Minutes later, we stumbled upon the battalion's campsite, or what was left of it. The snow was a graveyard. Bodies frozen mid-crawl, rifles stuck in the ground like gravestones, foxholes filled with ice, screams that had turned to silence, and among the survivors, a man standing upright but dead behind the eyes. He turned to me slowly, as if every bone in his body resisted movement. "General, it's over." I stepped forward until I was inches from his face, until the frost of my breath touched his skin. "Nothing is over while you are still standing. If you breathe, you fight. If you fight, you live." That sentence brought the dead back to life. Men rose, men steadied, men remembered who the hell they were. We rallied them, treated the wounded, tightened formation, but hell had not finished with us yet. As we began the march back, the forest shifted, not physically, but spiritually, as if the darkness itself noticed us and disapproved. Then the night split open. A mortar shell hit behind us, sending snow, earth, and screams into the sky. The explosion illuminated the forest like lightning. The enemy was closing in. Men panicked. Some shouted commands. Some shouted prayers. Some simply froze. I climbed onto the tank again, raised my arms wide, and let my voice rip through the chaos. "Listen to me. Fear is a liar. Move forward or die backward, but you will not stand still." Something ancient awakened in them. Not courage. Something deeper. Survival forged in rage. We fired back. Fog lit up with muzzle flashes. Snow melted under the heat of explosions. Men screamed. Men fell. Men rose again with fire in their eyes. Death danced between the trees that night, and I danced with it. By the time the shooting stopped, the forest looked like a scar carved into the world. We had survived, but survival is not quiet. Survival haunts. As we gathered the tired, the wounded, the barely standing remnants of the battalion, one man approached me, the same soldier who had earlier said it was over. His voice cracked. "General, why did you come for us?" I looked him dead in the eyes. "Because no man under my command dies alone in the dark." He nodded, tears freezing on his cheeks, and as we prepared to march back toward the faint glow of our distant lines, I felt something heavy, not on my shoulders, but inside my chest. Guilt, not for who I saved, but for who I couldn't. Leadership is not glory. Leadership is carrying ghosts, and a leader who forgets his ghosts loses his soul. We started the long march back. The forest was quieter now, not peaceful quiet, but the quiet of something that had witnessed enough blood for one night. As the moon finally broke through the clouds, casting pale light over the battered column of survivors, I spoke not to them, but to myself. Remember this night. Remember who you were when the world tried to kill you. Remember that darkness only wins against men who stop walking. And if you're still listening to this, if you're still here with me in this cold, unforgiving forest of memory, then maybe you're the kind of person who doesn't walk away, the kind who doesn't break, the kind who doesn't fear the dark. If that's true, stay. There's more to come, and you won't want to miss it. The march back through the forest was not a march. It was a trial, a test designed by nature, by fate, or by whatever cruel force governs the lives of soldiers. The path we came through earlier had vanished under fresh layers of snow. The fog thickened again, weaving itself between the trees like a living creature that did not want us to leave. Every step was agony. Boots sank deep into the frozen slush. Legs trembled from exhaustion. Some men were half-conscious, stumbling forward, guided only by the grip of another soldier's hand on their arm. But they kept moving, not because they believed they would survive. Belief was a luxury long gone, but because I was moving. A leader is not a torch that lights the path. A leader is a hammer that breaks the path open. "General," someone whispered behind me, breath sharp and shallow. "How much farther?" I didn't turn around. "Far enough for the weak to fall behind and close enough for the strong to rise." A cruel answer, maybe. But war is not a nursery. War is a crucible, and only men who accept the heat come out forged. Hours passed. The trees thinned. The snow deepened. Wind tore into our faces like shattered glass. Some men collapsed. We lifted them. Some begged to rest. We denied them. Rest is the grave's first kiss. Then a flare went up in the distance, white, silent, hopeful. The men saw it and staggered with relief. "General, our lines!" But hope is dangerous. Hope makes men careless. I raised my fist. Everyone froze. General, a sergeant murmured. I pointed to the snow at our feet. Tracks, boot prints, fresh, wrong direction. The enemy had seen the same flare we did. They're waiting for us, the sergeant said. I nodded. Then we won't keep them waiting. I ordered the men to spread out, form a staggered line. The wounded were placed in the center. Anyone with ammunition checked it twice. Bayonets fixed, teeth clenched, spines straightened by the simple realization we either fight now or die tired later. Minutes passed, snow fell harder. The forest held its breath, and then shadows moved. The enemy appeared like phantoms materializing from the frozen dark. The first shot tore through the cold air, then another, then a dozen more. Muzzle flashes lit up the trees like lightning bolts. "Contact!" someone yelled. But before the words even finished echoing, I had already drawn my pistol and fired. War is not about speed. War is about certainty. A single certain man will beat a dozen hesitant ones. The men surged forward with a roar, not a human roar, but a primal one, the kind an animal makes when it refuses death itself. Snow sprayed into the air under boots and bullets. Grenades hissed through the darkness. Bayonets clashed. Fists swung. Teeth shattered. It was not a battle. It was not strategy. It was survival, boiled down to its ugly core. A German soldier charged at me, screaming, rifle raised. His eyes were wild, desperate. He expected fear. I gave him accuracy. One shot. Mid-charge. He fell face first into the snow, sliding lifelessly until he stopped at my boots. I stepped over him without looking down. A leader does not count the dead. A leader simply makes sure his own men are not among them. The firefight lasted minutes, but war has a way of stretching minutes into years. When the final scream faded and the last cartridge clicked empty, silence fell again. That cursed silence. My men stood, panting, bleeding, shaking, alive, all except one. The young lieutenant, the one who had asked me whether I was afraid, lay on his back, staring at the sky. A bullet had torn through his coat, then his chest. I knelt beside him. His breath was shallow, vapor fading into the night. "General," he whispered, "did we make it?" I gripped his hand. "You led men through hell tonight, son, and hell blinked first." He managed a weak smile. Then the light left his eyes. A leader carries many things, plans, orders, responsibilities. But the heaviest thing he will ever carry is the silence of a dying man. I rose, feeling the weight of the forest shift with me. "Move out," I said quietly. No one questioned. No one hesitated. We walked for another hour until the trees finally opened into a clearing, and through the snowfall, dim but unmistakable, we saw lights, our lines, home. The moment the sentries recognized us, shouts erupted. "The lost battalion! They made it out! Patton brought them back! Open the gates! Get medics!" Men ran toward us, wrapping blankets around shoulders, helping carry the wounded, shouting orders, crying with relief. I felt none of it. Inside me there was no victory, only memory. Memory of the silence, the fog, the snow, the bodies frozen mid-prayer, the lieutenant's fading breath. Glory has never interested me. Glory is a painting hung by men who never saw the battlefield. What interested me, what still interests me, is duty. Duty that does not bow, does not break, does not ask for reward. A reporter approached, notebook in hand. "General Patton," he said breathlessly, "how did you find them? How did you bring them back through all that?" I looked at him, tired, cold, still burning inside. "I walked toward the darkness," I said, "and I didn't stop walking." Later that night, as the surviving men rested, I went outside alone. The air was calmer now, the sky clearer. A few stars peeked through the clouds. I looked at the forest, the same forest that had almost swallowed us whole. And I whispered to no one, "You tried, but you should have tried harder. Because if there is one thing war taught me, one truth sharper than bullets, colder than snow, louder than artillery, it is this. You cannot kill a man who refuses to die, and you cannot stop a man who refuses to stop walking. If you're still here, still listening to this story unfold step by brutal step, then maybe you understand something most don't. This isn't a story about war. This isn't a story about soldiers. This isn't even a story about me. It's a story about endurance, about walking forward when everything around you screams to turn back, about choosing responsibility over comfort, duty over fear, purpose over peace. And if you're the kind of person who listens all the way to the end, the kind who doesn't flinch from darkness, the kind who recognizes courage when he hears it, then you belong with us. Stay. There are more battles to remember, more nights to walk through, more demons to bury, and trust me, you do not want to miss the next one. Subscribe Q Hidden Inside Tone. Because as long as men like you are listening, as long as courage still exists somewhere in the cold, I, General George S. Patton, will keep speaking. Not about war, but about the fire inside every man who refuses to die quietly. There's more to come, and you won't want to miss it.